Welcome to Bad Drugs, an informative mini podcast about drugs. Three specific types: cocaine, crocodile, and fentanyl. Me, Estrella, and my colleagues Dayana and Allison will be in charge of talking about them. With further ado, let's get started. So, what are drugs? I'm sure you've heard of them before. Substances that, when introduced into the body, act on the central nervous system. These cause changes that can affect behavior, mood, or perception. Drugs are dangerous and even deadly. There are many types of drugs, but in this chapter we will talk about cocaine. Cocaine in the world of fashion. Cocaine is an extremely addictive stimulant that directly affects the brain. Cocaine is usually sold on the street in the form of fine crystalline white powder known in Spanish as coca, nieve, dama blanca, or talco. Some of its names in English are coke, sea, snow, flake, and blow. Dealers generally mix cocaine with other inert substances, such as cornstarch, talc, or sugar, or with certain active drugs such as procaine, a local anesthetic of similar chemical composition, or other stimulants such as amphetamines. Some users combine cocaine with heroin in what is called often a speedball. In Spanish, it is also known as revuelto, rebujo, francés, or café con leche. The effects of cocaine appear almost immediately after a single dose and wear off within minutes and to an hour. Those who use small amounts of cocaine generally feel euphoric, energetic, communicative, and mentally alert, particularly with respect to visual, auditory, and tactile sensations. Cocaine can also temporarily decrease your appetite and the need for sleep. Some users feel that the drug helps them perform some simple tasks, both physical and intellectual, faster, while for others is the opposite effect. Cocaine is often taken repeatedly and in increasing dose, binge eating, which can lead to a state of irritability, restlessness, and paranoia, and even to a full episode of paranoid psychosis, in which the sense of consciousness is lost, reality, and suffers from auditory hallucinations. As the dose frequency of increase, the risk of adverse psychology effects also increase. Cocaine in the world of fashion. On the verge of anorexia, many models have recognized that cocaine swarms at all parties and catwalks, a drug that many turn to get rid of their hunger between lines of white powder. The veteran Judy Mascot believes that around the paradise there are many parties. It is an environment in which there is a lot of drugs and covert sex. You don't have to be very smart to realize what's happening. The young model Daniela Freitas, 24, also confessed that at all the parties they have to go to there are drugs that are offered to the girls. The international and most sought after models such as Kim Moss or Naomi Campbell to the top to the list. The list of professionals most affected by the catwalk that lead them to cocaine use. In both cases, their lives have passed through rehabilitation clinics. I started in the world of fashion when I was 14 years old. I was very young. I felt lost. I sought refuge in alcohol and drugs. I was always high. It took me a long time to realize that I was going with the wrong people. Most unknowledge years later, Naomi Campbell blames it on being able to get what you want when you want it. Model Alliance, an organization that monitors the right of tops, conducted a study on drugs in the world of fashion. The data shows that 76 of the models surveyed stated that they had been offered alcohol and drugs during working hours to relax. And not only that, the most glamorous backstage has another revealing feature. More than 50% of the tops admit to consume cocaine. If you aspire to enter the beautiful and dangerous world of fashion, you must be careful not to indulge in this destructive substance. Well, that will be it for this chapter. Thanks for listening and see you next time.
Welcome, my name is Allison Roland. This is more sharp of drugs in the mini podcast. In this I will talk about fentanyl and personal story of a person. Without further ado, let's get started. The use of drugs results in many physical and mental damage. Drugs lead people to commit violent acts, crimes. When they are under the influence of drugs, they do not think, they only act based on their needs. It is not an easy task to get out of drugs, but neither should we blame others for our own mistakes. Since many things or say that their families do not help them, but they do not have any responsibility for the drugs addict person, so do not think that the other should be blamed for our own interests. I take fentanyl several times a day. If I don't, it gives me tremendous craving. Jesus told us he lives on the street of Tijuana and has been taking fentanyl for several years. Jesus said that the last time he was able to get drugs, he spent 8 months without consuming. But that Malia, withdrawal syndrome, was so strong that he spent 22 days practically without sleep, sitting on a street in Tijuana in northern Mexico and preparing his first dose of the days. The 50-year-old recalls trying the drugs as a teenager. He went through cocaine, heroin, until about 3 years ago, when he only consumed fentanyl mixed with crystal. Fentanyl makes you sleep. I don't know why. Makes you feel so good. I take this several times a day because when I don't, it has you tremendous craving. He tells it on television minutes before injects himself and becoming almost unconscious for a few seconds. Fentanyl, a synthetic opioid 50 times more powerful than heroin, has been considered a true epidemic in the United States for many years, where in 2021 it was the main cause of a record of more than 107,000 overdose deaths. In recent years, however, its consumption has all established itself on the other side in its southern border in Mexican municipalities such as Tijuana. There it is enough to walk a few minutes around the northern zone or red zone or tolerance zone, epicenter of sex work. Do observe dozens of other consume in the middle of the street, practically anesthetized in what organizations already qualify as a clear health crisis to which the authorities are not responding adequately. We are going to openly confront fentanyl without the damage it causes because in the sudden death and also extremely painful to see how they were like zombies. It is something very strong. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador described the situation. What effect does fentanyl have on the brain? Like heroin, morphine, and other opioid drugs, fentanyl works by binding to opioid receptor found in areas of the brain that control pain and emotions. Fentanyl can become impossible to get, but we have to achieve peace of mind to be able to get or not consume it. Well, that will be for this chapter. Thanks for listening and see you next time.
The temptation to feel good is perhaps today one of the greatest emotions shared with the human being. But how far a person is able to obtain this? What is the limit to ability to achieve this? Because what kind of things would a person be willing to try with the hand film play someone? He is still living a world of fantasies, subjecting self-to psychological tortures day after day until a problem ends up in nothing but a pile of bones and putrefaction. Well, maybe I'm not someone to give your opinion, but Have cannot take a vow until drugs that no one should consume, this case the crocodile. My name is Dayana Corrales. Join me for today's journey towards bathing of the skin and being eating from the inside. Welcome. As I mentioned, today will be a brief flight through the world of crocodile. Well, we're starting with the question that you may be asking. What is the crocodile? Does morphine urine of the poor or simply cannibal drug addict? All these names refer to the same drug. This is become popular in the media under the name of crocodile. The drug crocodile, also known as morphine or the cannibal drug, is a heavy opiate-based analgesic that is up to times stronger than heroin and many times cheaper and more toxic. It's commonly used as a substitute of heroin in poor areas. A regular consumer of this substance does not usually last more than 2 years from the first consumption due to its highly toxic composition. Other nicknames with which the drug has been cannibal are the zombie drug, or the living dead, or the cannibal drug. But names refer to this the attachment of flesh suffering due to their addicts, giving a terrifying aspect. Crocodile is a drug that happened in Russia since 2002. It began to happen in Siberia and since spread throughout the country. It's a disorder with low prevalence in Spain, compared to the high number of the users in the other countries such as Ukraine or Russia. Although there is a slow but a gradual expansion of the consumption in countries of the European Union and the American continent. During the decade of the 2001, it began to synthesize in clandestine in Russian, where they know as crocodile, meaning crocodile, probably to the derivation of the same crocodina and perhaps also the appearance of the scaly skin presented by its regular users. Crocodile is a mixture of kerosene, gasoline, or petroleum, a substance derived from morphine but up to 10 times more potent. This drug causes lesion of the body, of greenish tone and scaly appearance reminiscent of the skin of a crocodile, and is the name which baptized in Russian, a place from which it's feared that it will expand throughout Europe. Effects of the crocodile. The debilitating capacity of this drug called the iron of the poor, because it's very similar to the although cheaper. It's very high. Its destructive effects begin with spots of the skin. This become gray and even sometimes falls off the dew continued is leaving the bones exposed. It's estimated that in 3 years they make roots. The cannibal drug is a homie and is part of synthetic opioids. This is created from a complex chain of chemical reactions and mixtures. Self-production results in a contaminated suspension that's injected intravenously due to its spermological characteristics. This morphine shows a high potential to cause dependence. The simple process of obtaining this substance from this morphine, together with the high availability at low cost, configures the process of self-sufficient consumers. In recent there are cases of addicts with needing amputation of cleaning of the large routing areas in their bodies. Cases are increasingly common in the emergency rooms of hospitals in this country. The harmful effects of crocodile are not limited only to lesions of vascular muscle nether. Due to toxic components of the substance such as iron, thyroid musculations of the severe deterioration in cartilage be prosperous. Their toxic components is related to neurological endocrine damage, as well as their organs involved in the metabolism of chemicals, heavy metals used in the synthesis of the substance. The initial manifestation of these effects occurs 5 days after the injection of a crocodile is started and includes organic symptoms, where the most common are pneumonia, meningitis, and periodontitis. Of this process, an organic symptomatology confers a progressive cycle and deterioration of consumers, at the same time a very high mortality rates, although not all experience the extreme dementia associated with crocodile.